Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Gauri Kundalia, and we are building up to the most important bilateral of the day. It is, of course, between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden. It is to take place in almost 2.5 hours left for that important bilateral. Later in the day today, also the first in-person Quad Summit. And to decode all of this, we have an esteemed panel of guests with us. We have with us Ambassador Shilkant Sharma. He's a former diplomat and also has served as India's permanent representative to UN in Vienna. Dr. Satoru Nagao joins us. He's a visiting fellow of the Hudson Institute. We have with us Wing Commander Praful Bakshi, the former chief spokesperson of the Indian Air Force and Ministry of Defence. Dr. Roger Liu also joins us. He's an associate professor at the Flames University in Pune. Also with us on the broadcast, Sumit Peer, a political commentator. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show, and we will open up by setting expectations. And one by one, I would like to ask everybody what they expect of this very important bilateral first between PM Modi and President Biden. Ambassador Shilkant Sharma, let's begin with you, sir. What are your main expectations? What are you expecting of the bilateral today?
Well, this is the most important bilateral meeting of the year so far. Prime Minister Modi has spoken to President Biden, and they've also had virtual meetings. But in-person meeting, this is the first one, and it has been. I've been maintaining this. This has been well prepared. It has been prepared through various stages of bilateral dialogues at 2+2 at the ministers' level. Foreign Minister Jaishankar has met his counterpart several times. And then our Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has also met the US Secretary of Defence. So, and the NSA has met his counterpart. So all this, the US NSA had visited Delhi. All this has been preparing for this major event, major meeting. And expectations are first focused on bilateral. We have a lot to do. The India-US agenda on the bilateral, on cooperation and technology, on cyber, on defense trade initiative. There's a whole lot of things to do, and I'm sure there'll be clear directions from the top on those. The second aspect is the commonality of purpose and interest in global issues like counter-terrorism, and climate change and the pandemic. In all these three, India and US have worked together. The pandemic is something on which Prime Minister Modi has spoken already, and President Biden's statement in the UN General Assembly outlined these issues. And the most important and the regional issue is the situation developing in Afghanistan, right, and the threat of terrorism spreading again, and the kind of violation of commitments made by the Taliban to the Doha dialogue and the agreement with the US, and the situation so far in Afghanistan not stabilizing. At the same time, there are countries like Pakistan and China who are triumphant, who think that they have managed to get the best of this situation in Afghanistan, and they are gloating at US withdrawal, and at the same time blaming US for withdrawal. So it is this kind of a double speak and duplicity which is still prevalent. So India has to talk, and these talks are also preceded by very important bilateral meetings that Prime Minister Modi has had already. He has spoken to the Japanese Prime Minister, and he met the Australian Prime Minister, and these are part of the Quad. So the agenda is really vast, and we hope that as much of it should be covered in these meetings as possible, and directives should go from the top. Because in the US system, directives from the top mean a lot, and all our previous successes and milestones have been with excellent rapport with the President. Prime Minister Modi has had a very, very good rapport with President Obama, whose Vice President was. President Biden has worked with him, and then you have he's had a very good thing also with President Trump. So this is a kind of a continuing relay of a run which is going on for last 2 decades, and we have to go fast on this track. There is a lot of expectation. The Indian diaspora also has a major role to play in this, and Prime Minister's support in the diaspora, and the diaspora support for Indo-US friendship and partnership, and for the very special global strategic partnership, which is how we are describing it now, should get a boost.
Right.
And that's the expectation that we have from this meeting.
All right, Ambassador Sharma. Wing Commander Bakshi, if I could come to you next, what are you expecting, sir? Would China be on the table? Would it be Afghanistan? Talking about Pakistan, of course, we saw Kamala Harris speak of Pakistan. What are your expectations going to be from this particular bilateral?
It's very promising. I personally feel that if we have an open mind with America, of course, there have been a number of meetings earlier also. Down the decades, we have a number of meetings. But it all depended. It all depended upon how much your minds were open, how much were you ready to accept each other, what was the level of acceptance and respect for each other. So at the moment, you find that our degree of acceptability with the Americans are quite high. When you see the Howdy Modi rallies, etc., and how the previous presidents two presidents had met. Prime Minister Modi, things seem to be promising, but these things get accelerated because of the need of the hour is there, because of the uncertain situations which have been created in Afghanistan, J&K region here, South China region down the oceans, right across, up to Indonesia and South China Sea. That aspect has now made a lot of change. A lot of things are expected out of India. Indo-Pacific, the strategic planning which is there, which America is wanting India to take the lead into it. And when the development of Quad is there, how does the AUKUS fall into that slot? How will it change the entire security arena of that place? Basically, it is because here in Afghanistan, J&K area, it is intervention in support of China to Taliban and Pakistan, which has created a serious threat, not only to Afghanistan and neighboring area, but J&K. And then down the line, Chinese threat in the South China Sea, where it has now right across the erstwhile NATO countries are there. America is there, Great Britain is there, they are all there, arming up Australia, nuclear powered submarines are there, and of course, the breakup with France, and all those are minor irritants which are there, which are coming up alongside the induction of submarine, where China is getting really worried because after having occupied so many islands and making so many islands, now it suddenly gets challenged. And it is challenged by the emitting leadership of India. Now India is calling on Vietnam, calling on Korea, and the technology exchange programs are taking place very seriously. And all with this aspect is going to make a lot of change, and that is why the mutual respect in this bilateral meeting will make a lot. Of course, Kamala Harris discussion took place, and the discussions on terrorism will be there, discussions on COVID is also there, climate change, etc. That's beside. But the basic thing is that America has realized that China will not stop. It will use all its advanced technology in cyber. It will use it in the biological warfare, and we have to watch out at the satellite, the space warfare, etc. The technology will also be used. So you will see a rise of technology in that area and how the threat is curtailed. But China is really worried that change in the stand of India. China is now somewhat curtailed in the Ladakh area. It has not made the next move yet. We are waiting for all the things to develop. And what is going to happen with the Taliban, Pakistan, OIC countries, and Shanghai Cooperation, the supply of arms, supply of weapons, the supply of wealth, that is funding of the whole system is going to take place. Russia is worried, and Turkey is also on the waiting on the corner. So yes, so many countries are now in turmoil. In this situation, India has to stand out. Why? Because our security is threatening the maximum. Whether it is on our eastern border or on the western border, the enemy is the same in different forms.
Right. Sumit Peer coming here, of course, Wing Commander Bakshi has given us a lot of talking points and lots of threads which we'll pick on later. But as per you, what are your big expectations from this bilateral?
Well, ma'am, there are quite a few points which go straight out of the table, and which is what the world is looking at. You see, the world has changed after the Galwan. World has changed after the Chinese virus. Today, this is the most talked, most watched, and most strategic summit ever happening in the world. This is the formation of a new alliance which is going to take the world. You see, what happened when NATO was formed, it's that kind of a movement what we are seeing right now. I remember President Joe Biden has first bilateral session that was with Prime Minister Modi. That was a virtual session. The first international bilateral was with Prime Minister Modi. Now Prime Minister Modi going a lot of 1:1 meetings, and a lot of these 2:2 meetings have happened. Now, assertions of China at the world stage is known. China's designs are known. China's plans are known. How did ISI help Taliban to come back with Chinese money? This is also known. So now, if there is anybody who has really stopped China in its tracks and had showed the world China can be stopped, PLA is not invincible, is the Republic of India. So our stature at the global stage has elevated drastically. We are not an Asian power today, we are a global power today. And see the emergence of Prime Minister Modi. Look at any service. Even if they are done in India, they are done in Europe, they are done in America. In top 3, 1, 2, 3, it is by default Prime Minister Modi. So that elevation of India's stature, the elevation of Prime Minister Modi's stature has made us a global power. And if I can be candid and direct with you, we are the fulcrum of the Quad. Quad does not exist or is a wasted force without India. The Quad today literally sits on India, and if people want to contain China, it has to be with help of India or with India. So in a way, my problems are not my problems only, they also become your problems, because world needs us the most right now. That is as simple as that. Now if we talk of tangible things, what I expect, the point number 1 is, I expect that within the Quad countries, we should talk about accepting our certifications for vaccination. That's the first thing we have to show. Raw materials for vaccinations and all should come. We should show our commitments. What is Quad going to do to vaccinate millions of people in poorer countries who have no access to vaccines, and how we are going to work together? And the most important point is, ma'am, the time has come that Quad should present itself as an alternate. There is a bloc. You see, the bloc is of Talibanis, Jihadis, and communists. Taliban, you know who are Talibanis, is Afghanis, Jihadis is Pakistanis, and communists is China. Now, world needs an alternate bloc and alternate dispensation, which has foreign exchange, which has markets, which has technology, which has service, which has manufacturing, and which is ready to work with the like-minded countries of the world. So I see that as a much bigger opportunity, because this bloc, what Quad is forming right now, and a lot of people and countries will join in due course of time, we are the hope of the world. We can provide world with the manufacturing, we get service, raw materials, spares, technology, economy, foreign exchange reserve, and the biggest trading for the biggest market world needs. So when this emerges, this will but naturally make China as a global power. So what do you need to stop China in its tracks? One is you won't fight with them. Second is attack the Achilles heel of China. The Achilles heel of China is its economy. With a $50 trillion debt, which is 320% of the GDP, China is not doing great. One body blow to China is decisive. The world has to get together and make this. And the last and the pertinent point is, we must somewhere down the line show and be talking about it without the military piece. Military is the central piece of Quad. We may not want to talk about it right now. We may not want to declare our military alliance, but without military, the Quad doesn't make a lot of sense. First is the economy and cooperation. Third and the most important aspect is the military. Start hinting to the world what is the roadmap for the military alliance, because that is what will put China in its tracks. China is a threat to the world peace. Jihadis of Taliban do not have impact radius. Jihadis of Pakistan again have a limited impact radius. But when they get funded by the Chinese money, the radius or the impact radius is phenomenal. In Afghanistan, you can bring up a whole goddamn army. That is what the world has to realize. The world has to stop the emergence of Red Jihad. Red jihad is when the jihadis like Talibanis and Pakistanis get funded by China. And the moment they get Chinese money, they can cause havoc in the whole world. And let's not forget what is China's second biggest economy, has Intel, has satellites, has nuclear weapons, has tons of money. And what do these jihadis need? They need money to carry on their agenda. So these are the new geopolitical changes. The Red Jihad has to be stopped. Red Jihad has already shown its first success or victory in Afghanistan. If we do not want Afghanistan's to repeat, we have to call it a day and do our best to stop it.
All right, okay. So lots of talking points there as well. Dr. Nagao coming here with a Japanese perspective. Now, the second very important meeting today is going to be the Quad Summit, which is the first ever in-person Quad Summit which is to take place. What are you looking forward to? What are your expectations, speaking from a Japanese point of view?
Okay, thank you very much for asking me. This is very important. The Quad meeting will be very important. And also the bilateral meeting between India and Japan, India and US, India and Australia also be very important. Especially now, the US has stepped up their effort to win the competition with China. So to do this, what should we do? All of these issues will be the topic of this Quad Summit. Firstly, how to maintain military balance with China. Or how to reduce the China's income is also important, because all of the China's related problem is related with China's ample budget. China can modernize their military because they have the ample budget. China can suggest infrastructure project, mega-sized infrastructure project, and create a huge debate in the recipient and control this country because they have the ample budget. So how to reduce their income is also important. And the technology, the future, the rule will change. In this case, we do not wish China leads this kind of world. So vital technology, especially 5G or biotechnology, because there is a possibility, there is still a possibility, China's laboratory leaked some part of the virus of the COVID-19. Of course, report cannot prove it, but that is the reason we need to worry about biotech issues. And we need to curb the China's influence of the COVID-19, or in the future, because of the climate change, rule of business will change. So in this case, the most important issue, what is the most important issue? Most important issue is who decides the rule of the world. For a long time, China has exploited the rule of the world and rights and expand their influence. That is the problem. So in this case, Quad, all of the great powers in the Indo-Pacific, except China, gather in this place and talk about how to make the new rule in the world. So we must take back the right to decide the rule of the world. That is the reason this Quad is important. And all of the issues related with this will be the topic. That is, I'm looking forward to see the result of this summit. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Nagao. Dr. Roger Liu, how does Taiwan look at this situation? Because it is a very, very significant country, a very significant player of the region of the Indo-Pacific, specifically when it comes to its relations with China. How does Taiwan look at Quad? What are Taiwan's expectations from the Quad?
Before I reach you the Taiwanese perspective for this, I would like to talk about my observations about what is going to happen between the bilateral talks between President Biden and Prime Minister Modi. Well, I think there are several levels that we can look at this. The first one is the bilateral level between the US and India. Well, of course, the most important task for this visit is to promote and consolidate the US-India relations. So we have observed in the first meeting between the Vice President Kamala Harris and Prime Minister Modi. Well, if you pay attention to that, you will find that this is an official meeting that is in lack of the boundaries that has existed between President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi. Because the party or the political spectrum represented by the Democratic Party of the U.S. is very far away from the BJP, which is slightly on the right side of the political spectrum. So we don't see this kind of bonhomie. But the key issue over here is that we have to ensure that even the parties are different from different political spectrum. These two great countries, these two, one of that is the biggest democracies, the other is the oldest democracies, can work together in the structure of Quad. That's the most important thing that they have to ensure. So I think, one of the point of observation is to see the relations and the signals being sent out between the two leaders. The second thing is that we have to look at the multilateral level or the strategic level. The U.S. would like to create an image that all the democracies are united under the leadership of the new government of the United States, especially before the Summit of Democracy is going to be held in December by the United States. Well, they would like to create an image that all the democracies can work together to fight against a potential threat, which is China. China can be seen as an elephant in the room or the dragon in the room, if we use a better word to describe that. But I don't see much possibility that we will see Prime Minister Modi and the President Biden come out at the press conference bombasting China with harsh words.
Right.
Because, India has expressed its stance towards Quad that India wants to make Quad a more open forum that will be more inclusive. So I think China will still remain very important, but China will be there. And a lot of things that will not be said publicly will be discussed between these two leaders, in a closed-door meeting, including the intelligence collaboration or others. I think they will touch upon all this that my panelist has mentioned before.
All right. Ambassador Sharma, one important point which we've been discussing here on our channel since morning is vaccine reciprocity. And vaccines have been something that Prime Minister Modi has spoken about, Biden has spoken about, and so has Kamala Harris. As per you, is that a possibility given what is happening in UK and what the UK has done? Is there a possibility of vaccine reciprocity between India and the US?
I think what our Prime Minister has said is that there should be some kind of understanding for mutual recognition of the vaccinated status of citizens in each other's country. That's a very wise and constructive suggestion, and that's how diplomacy should work. That bilaterally, each of us, we could have a very clear understanding that look, these are the vaccinations we have done, and this is how we certify, and this is our data. And same applies with the other countries, and they should respect each other's vaccinations and their certification. What UK has done is out of the ordinary. Actually, it is beyond comprehension. They have been guided by some, as I've been saying, it's a cussedness with which they have been guided. First, they blocked the Covishield itself, though 5 million Covishield drops were used in UK for their own people, and then. When we pressed, then they said, all right, Covishield is okay, but certification requires quarantine, which is actually taking away from the other hand what one hand creates. So this kind of a cussed attitude of bureaucracy in the in the UK has caused problems. And fortunately with the US, we have by better understanding, and the recent announcements in the US that fully vaccinated individuals, their travel will be permitted. So the US has a more positive and forthcoming view on this, and they have a better understanding of India's situation. And there is this idea about booster dose. We have in India a situation where those who got the vaccinations done in January and February, they could benefit with the booster dose, but we have to first focus on vaccinating the entire country and the maximum number of people. So the US-India collaboration in this area and Prime Minister's statement that India will be willing to supply to the other countries also, having met our demands to a fair extent. These are indications that there could be a lot of commonality and cooperation in this area with the US. This is how I feel. I don't see any wrinkles in the India-US approach to the pandemic, for instance. They both share the same concern, same platform, and same approach, I would say.
All right. Wing Commander Bakshi, this meeting, of course, is coming on the heels of what has happened in Afghanistan. The security situation is something that is of primary concern to India. In that context, what can we expect out of this bilateral in particular and also the Quad meeting in general? Unmute yourself, sir, please. There you go.
You can hear me? Yes. You're absolutely right. There are two aspects which are going to come out. First thing is our meeting with America and we in India are very clear about things. America is also very clear about all what has happened after it has departed from Afghanistan. America is very clear that it did not do its duty of the occupational force. As when you a force which occupies a country, when it has to leave, how it should leave. Geneva Convention is very clear about it, which America has violated. Very few countries have got the guts to even tell America that they have done it, but they have done it. The way they have left it, it is not Saigon anymore, it's not Vietnam. They should have, kept the rules in order. But now having realized that whatever has happened, the security situation has developed. First, India will brief America that this situation, which is going to affect us, had we taken the POK, this problem wouldn't have been there. We should have walked the talk. 6-7 years we have been back, we were saying that we will take POK. If POK was ours, Pakistan and Taliban couldn't have married up. Afghanistan, the situation of China would have been totally different. Anyhow, we failed in that. However, this threat, which will come to India through that, America has to be made aware that whatever the armament of 800 billion worth of armament they have left is going to be used against us and in the region. And it will be smuggled. So many things will take place. Narcotic trades, trade will be talked about. Don't forget, United States have been involved, their officers have been involved in the drug trade through this area. When we come down to Quad again, the militarization of Quad is only going to spell out the success of Quad. Yes, there are a lot of other embargoes we jointly can put on China, the trade embargo, etc. But China cannot be stopped until and unless you have the solid power behind. In the words of Mao Zedong, the real power comes out from the barrel of the gun and the world knows about it. Your foreign policy is strong if your guns are strong. That is what America knows. So China has to face the gun, and that is why the militarization of Quad means a lot. If we delay it and keep shuffling our feet about it, well, we can drag our feet and we can see China keep building up. That is why Vietnam, Korea, they both have approached India. In fact, they have even volunteered. They have done a number of exercises with our forces. They are ready to help us in any way. I'm telling you, this is a news which a lot of people don't understand and know that Vietnam had offered us long back in the Northeast, the way the counterinsurgency, how it had to be fought, etc. And so is Korean technology, which we are imbibing. Militarily, our indigenization programs have been weak. These countries know about it. But the political will has changed, which we were lacking all the while. And this they have realized, and that is why the mantle of leadership is coming to India. Because we are so strong, our army is strong, the number, etc. is there, big, large democracy, yes. And that is what emboldens the countries. We are now going to suggest Quad Plus. not Quad of 4 countries, but there will be other countries being invited. And our policies must show aggression. We must recognize Taiwan. We have dilly-dallying on it. We have recognized Tibet. We're shuffling our feet on it. And that's what we should do. Until we do this, our efforts, our mental attitude will not be made visible. The people will not understand that what we mean. We should do what we mean, and that's what we should do.
Right.
If we recognize Tibet, if we recognize Taiwan, and we increase our indigenization program and make it, and finally, the cyber warfare and the biological warfare which China is going to resort, we must take full precautions, including a civil defense. We have to upgrade it to, like America has done it to the homeland security. We have to do that and think about it. We can't even face a single nuclear attack. Our public cannot face. We have to even think of that.
We are on a rolling coverage of the Prime Minister's trip to the United States. Today, of course, the very important bilateral with President Biden, followed by the first ever in-person Quad meeting. And we're joined by an esteemed panel. Dr. Nagao, coming to you next. From a Japanese perspective, this is Prime Minister Suga's last it has been his last bilateral with Prime Minister Modi this morning, and also it's going to be his last Quad summit. What are you expecting next? Is there going to be any change in policy in Japan, or it is going to continue to support Quad the way it has been?
Okay, there are many concerns about this, I know, but at the same time, the view from Japanese, this is not a problem. Because even before the World War II, after the World War II, every 20 years, we can find 20 prime ministers. So prime ministers spend 1 year as a one term. That's common in Japan. So this means that long-term strategy of the Japan is planned by many prime ministers or many bureaucrats. So even if the prime minister will change, the long-term strategy will not change. Just the prime minister exercise.
All right, continue. Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
So that's why this will be the last foreign trip for the Prime Minister Suga. But at the same time, there is no concern that Japan will change the policy. And this long-term policy, which is a concept of the Quad and the Indo-Pacific, Japan was pioneer. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe introduced this idea when he addressed in the Indian Parliament in 2007. His address do not specifically use the word the Indo-Pacific and Quad, but the content of this address includes both concepts. And so Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is strategist, and he spent 80 years as a Prime Minister. That is the reason his influence towards long-term strategy of Japan is very big. But at the same time, changing the Prime Minister is one kind of common in Japanese politics. So every year we can find new base, but long-term strategy will not change, no worry about this.
Okay, all right. Dr. Liu, somebody on the panel also suggested a Quad Plus, where countries beyond what these 4 countries will become a part of such an alliance. Do you see that happening in the near future with Taiwan as a part of it? Unmute yourself, Dr. Liu.
Okay, I hope you can hear me now. I'm more pessimistic on this part, that Taiwan will have an official invitation from any of the Quad members, especially the US, to join the Quad. But what I'm optimistic about is that, well, under this promotion of Quad activities among its members, we will see that Taiwan will be brought more deeper into this multilateral security dialogue. First is that Taiwan has submitted its application to join the CPTPP, or the Comprehensive and Progressive Trans-Pacific Partnership, which the U.S. withdrew when Donald Trump came to power. So Well, now we are waiting for the Japanese and the government and the U.S. government to give us support, and we are optimistic about it, and we hope that we will get a positive response from these countries. And recently, we also see that under the U.S. campaign to consolidate democracies, Taiwan has actually benefited much from that. We see more support from either the bigger democracies or the smaller democracy like Lithuania. One example is that Lithuania has pledged to change its representative office's name and add Taiwan inside of that to make it Taiwan representative office. And the EU countries, the EU Parliament also made such a resolution to change its names to reflect the reality. And these are the things that we deem as optimistic development. Well, of course, we love to see our relationship between Taiwan and Japan and Taiwan and Australia to see, promotion. That's very good. But another important member that we're looking for is India. We hope that India can play a more constructive and more active role, so that Taiwan can interact with India in a more realistic way under the Quad framework. This is very important. One thing that we can use is that, well, actually the US and Japan has built up a network for Taiwan. It's called the Global Cooperation and Training Forum. This is like a capacity empowering forum that is comprised of Taiwan, Japan, and the US. We hope that India in the future can try to participate in that, because India is the only Quad member who is left out and who has hesitant in participating in this multilateral organization.
All right, Sumit Peer, do you believe that there has been some sort of a change in stance as far as China is concerned? Because we saw President Biden's UNGA speech, and some people suggest that it was softer, it was more moderated. What are you expecting as far as holding China accountable is concerned?
I think if you are a president of or a practitioner of a democracy where people have to vote, you don't have the privilege like Xi Jinping where you are elected till your death. So you have 700,000 Americans dead, ma'am. That is approximately 2% of the American population is wiped out by Chinese virus. You had Osama bin Laden and to come and do this 9/11, 5,000 people died. So you went 20 years in Afghanistan. You were hunting him down in Tora Bora. You lost 20,000 American lives and trillions of dollars, but you got nothing. You went after ISIS. Now what are you going to do after this? Man, there's a man and a country who killed 650,000 to 700,000 of your people. So in a democracy, you are answerable. You might choose the time and place to act, but your people, your own people will demand answers. Look at the American elections. It's a society divided into half. Today, a lot of people believe that, Democrats are soft on China. So that image has to change. And remember, at the time of the need, America moved 5 of its aircraft carriers to South China Sea, including the biggest destroyer, MS Johnson. So Joe Biden has more over tally to, kind of continue the policy of Donald Trump. But the problem is that when will you call out China? Because what you and me are worried, honestly, and everybody across the world is worried, when we have our relatives and friends dead, when you have been infected with COVID, when we have 4.5 million people dead, more than 200 million infected, billions of livelihoods lost, and more than $20 trillion of GDP lost, I need an confirmation, I need a guarantee that there is no new pandemic which is brewed in a lab in China is going to come hit you and my life. That is what the world is looking, that is what the democracies of the world are looking at. How do you assure me my family is safe? I don't want one more kind of goddamn virus from somewhere to come and hit me. How do you ensure the world there is no new pandemic? I mean, if a family member is sick, if a family member is in hospital, I don't care what is happening in states of Taiwan. I don't care what the Chinese GDP is. I want to ensure that situation does not come over again. And Mr. Joe Biden has to guarantee the people of America, no new virus can take out 700,000 Americans. That is the guarantee what people in democracies want. If you are an autocracy or a communist autocracy like China, you may get out with it. No need to ask anything, because remember Mao killed 50 million people in Great Leap Forward and another 10 million in Great Cultural Revolution. So if you have a history of killing 60 million of your own people, you're okay with it. But the world is not okay with it. We are not okay with it. We have people dead, we have GDPs gone. So one assurance what I want candidly and I want the world, all the people in the world want to look forward to it is How do we ensure there is no pandemic? No new pandemic calls the source. At least start talking about it. We all know where the virus came from. It's a subject matter of discussion. Was it leaked? Was it intentional? 99.9% was intentional. But let's call spade a spade, because we are tired of this having China in UNSC. We are tired of having China in UNGA. We are tired of having China in global forums. I mean, how multi-faced you can be. On the one side, you breed viruses, and on the other side, the Wuhan is the most connected city in the world. You use your Chinese name, we have to spread virus across the whole world, and on the same talk, and on the international forums, you go, oh, we are here to liberate the world, we are here to vaccinate the world, we are talking of humanity, we are talking of anti-terrorism, when the epicenter of bioterrorism is the Wuhan lab. I mean, how long can this hypocrisy continue? This has to come to an end. And world is now recovering. I think it is high time, in my personal opinion, let's call spade a spade, or let's start talking about it. We are worried now, we are concerned. At the end of the day, there are many people like you and me whose lives are at stake.
All right. Ambassador Sharma, let's shift gears a little bit, come back to India-US and the bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and President Biden. Sir, how do you see the fate of India-US Alliance? What do you think are the driving forces of this relationship? You're muted, sir. Could you just unmute yourself? There you go.
As has been stated several times, India-US relationship has multiple facets, and on each of them, there is considerable work underway. There's tremendous work in progress. Our priorities are high technology, new technology, cyberspace, the threats in cyberspace, and also the constructive work in cyberspace. Our concern is what is coming out in 5G and the fourth industrial revolution, where we work with the Americans and we would like that to go fast. India needs technology in a major way, and the Western countries led by US can help us, so we can work on that. And we have also to contribute to that. Our own diaspora is deeply involved in it. Actually, Prime Minister's meeting yesterday was two of them were people, Mr. Lal, and they are people who have Indian origin, and they have done very well, and they've done very well through the sheer dint of their hard work. So that is a kind of a big nexus that we have. Then there is this question of defense trade and technology initiative, where we have to move forward. This whole idea of producing drones now in India, advanced drones, is something which is overdue. We must start that and go as fast as we can. Where the meeting with the General Atomics is a very important meeting in that regard. And the American administration should remove the obstacles from this process. Then we have also things like trade, in which there are a lot of wrinkles for which instruction should go to the principals, so that they can sit down and remove them. And we should not throw up our hands and wring our hands in despair, but instead move forward. Like there was the idea of $100 billion trade to go to $500 billion. What prevents us from moving in that direction? We should do that. So these are the tangibles and the directive and the direct points of action that we have. Apart from that, there is coordination which is required: intelligence coordination in defense matters, coordination about law of the seas, about the sea lanes of communication, and the entire Indo-Pacific agenda, which is under Quad, supply chain resilience. All these things are very important for India and US to forge and steer. I think, as has been said by many people, that Quad requires India and US to be in the driving seat. They have to be there, because India provides the heft and the US provides the leadership. And Japan and Australia join as partners, and they bring their own strengths in this whole process. So I feel that this is the kind of a larger framework. But I want to mention, one thing, that in these interstate relationships, there are three aspects. One, there are things which you do but do not talk. There are things which you talk about but which are slow in going. And there are things which you just talk but don't do. So you have to be careful about which aspect you are dealing with. The UN, for instance, is a talk shop. Used to a talk. And as it's being spoken by the previous speaker, the country which is reducing UN to a talk shop is well known. Everywhere it's trying to block it and run it according to its own whims and fancies, and at the same time preach the world over what it should do. So that's where we have to be careful and speak, with clarity, but at the same time realize that our words carry weight if they are accompanied by action. So this is my short take on this.
All right, Wing Commander Bakshi, as far as defense is concerned, it's of course been a very important part of India-US relationships. We saw even in PM Modi's meetings with the CEOs yesterday, there was talk of technology and especially Predator drones. Your expectations as far as defense and that aspect of the relationship?
Thank you very much. Well, when you talk, you just hit the nail on the head. The expansion of China in South China Sea got the countries together. Whether they want to admit or not, it is their military power of China which has made it do all this thing. I can give you now one small example. In 1962, when Chinese had defeated us, it is that time that America came to us because they found that we had not used our Air Force. America, now I'm talking of Quad, America, Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, and India, they had a joint air exercise. I'm talking of 1963. I was a cadet in NDA. 45 days exercise in Karaikona and West Bengal was done. And America had asked Indian government as to why is there a hesitancy on your part to use, why is the political will not there? We will help you out. I am talking of all these Quad countries were there at that time at our behest. So what I am trying to tell you is that this aspect is absolutely clear that they can, if we think like that, if we give them confidence, it is mutual confidence because our interests can change. After 62 and 71, America came with 7th Fleet on us. That is also a part of history. But the need of the hour is your interest and your friend's interest. If they converge, at the moment, Indian interest and American interest are converging as far as China is concerned. So all the defense aspect which they are talking of. Now, General Atomics, Vivek Lal, they were talking of Predator. The armed Predator we have been asking for a very long time, while China has helped Pakistan to create the armed UAV already done. We are still lacking behind. Here we must be very serious and we must ask America. America has to be very clear, will it be joint venture and transfer of technology or not? We have to look into it because there has been a little bit of, lot of political breakups take place, like an AUKUS has taken place. France has got angry with Australia because of the atomic nuclear submarine. That's why nuclear submarine was not offered to us by America, because France is giving us Scorpions and they don't want to upset France. It is already upset. These aspects will go with proper planning. But for that, India must put its card on the table that we want joint venture and transfer of technology. Yes, C-17 Globemasters, Hercules, they are very fine. But 10 aircraft, 8 aircraft don't make a difference. We have to have technology development in India. We are way behind because our policies were weak. Rand Corporation told us long back in 95 that India had no security policy. That is what's our problem. That we must now build up our doctrines and accordingly influence our friends like America that we are here. Well, Russia or America, this debate will continue where we have to decide, because once you are begging for arms all over the world, then you can't have a greater choice. You have to decide for yourself. High time that we start indigenization program, and that's where the Quad Plus will come, where the countries will start having faith in us that yes, India is making a true leader. Indo-Pacific Strategic Alliance, India is being given the leadership, but leadership comes from the strength. We must have the military strength also. And as we were talking of Japan, Japan was strong and challenged America at one time because the naval power was there. And China is increasing its strength because of naval power in South China Sea. It's the naval power in South China Sea, jointly developed by all of us, which will curtail China. If we don't have it, yes, we can keep giving them pinpricks by stopping their trade, etc. But once they have the power in their hand, the smaller countries, all around the 24 odd countries, they get scared of America. We have to assume the leadership, we have to be strong, and America must make sure, and Great Britain and America, that we become strong in this region if they want to help us out.
Right. Dr. Nagao, finally, when the last virtual Quad Summit happened, 3 working groups were announced. Can we expect something of that sort this time as well? If so, what can the possible areas of focus be?
Okay, yeah, this is a very good question. The 3 working group consists by vital technology and how to deliver vaccine and related to climate change. Especially the high-tech area, vital technology areas, there are some information has already published. Information, especially Japanese media have already published it. The 5G and biotechnology will be the new thema they will talk. Because 5G is a new, of course, we need to set up a new rule. China wants to set up their own rule, and but we should create our own rule of the 5G. In this case, 4 countries agreed it will be very powerful. And in case of biotech, I have already explained a little, but because of the China, there is a high possibility China is research the bio weapon. That is the reason spreading COVID-19 is very big concern for us. So that is the reason 4 countries must cooperate in the biotech. Biotechnology is very sensitive technology. How to deal with the bioweapon, or how to deal with COVID-19, how to deal with the diseases, everything related with biotechnology. So that is the reason we focus on this time, Quad focusing on this time, and Quad will agree this. So vital technology areas, supply chain, or rare earths, these are also important. The working group already focusing on. But with this, the 5G and biotech will be new topic. That is, I expect.
All right, so 5G and biotech is your verdict. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.